So this is Dan Halloran. If you're not from New York, and even if you are, it's okay if you're unfamiliar. He was a former councilman in Queens. He left office in disgrace. He spent some time in prison for taking bribes. But it seems like the disgraced councilman can't stay out of trouble, especially when the feds allegedly caught him with videos of child sex abuse on his phone. I'm Elizabeth Millner with Law&Crime. Now, the former public official was changing planes at an airport in Miami while he was heading back to New York. Now, federal agents say they caught the 54-year-old with as many as 1,000 videos hidden on his iPhone, and he reportedly admitted to having them. 1,362. That's how many child sexual abuse videos federal agents say they found on Dan Halloran's cell phone. So, how were they found? Well, it's not like Dan handed over his phone and said, "Here, look." More happened. On Tuesday, Dan was traveling from Cuba and was supposed to head back to New York. Keyword: supposed to. So Dan got off his flight from Cuba. He was in Miami International Airport when Customs and Border Protection pulled him to the side. So yeah, that's already not looking too good. When they pulled him aside, it was for a device inspection. Now, according to reports, custom officers are allowed to search cell phones and other electronic devices at ports of entry with no probable cause or warrant. But what they allegedly found was disturbing. Investigators say they first found around 35 videos in a hidden folder on his iPhone, and those were reportedly of prepubescent girls being victimized. It was also discovered he allegedly purchased content from Telegram. You would think Dan Halloran would deny, right? Well, he reportedly admitted to knowingly having those disturbing videos on his phone. So I mentioned the number 1,362. Well, get ready for some more numbers. Officials say Dan told them about 2/3 to 3/4 of the 1,362 videos in his hidden album showed videos of child sexual abuse, which no matter how you slice it, that is just one video too many. He was booked into the Broward County Jail, but now he's in federal detention in Miami. Again, not Dan's first time behind bars. He was convicted in 2014 of election rigging, well, specifically bribery and conspiracy charges. He took money to fix the Republican mayoral primary in New York City. Oh, and he was convicted of taking payoffs from developers who wanted him to funnel city money to them. But those developers were actually the FBI. So yeah, you can see why he's known as the disgraced councilman. He was sentenced in 2015 to a decade in federal prison, but he only served 5 years of his sentence in prison. He was released halfway through his sentence because of the COVID pandemic. As station WPLG in Florida points, in a crazy twist of irony, he now has the same federal inmate register number he had after his bribery conviction. When it comes to this case, though, no plea just yet. He's set to be arraigned at a later date. So for now, he's still in federal detention in Miami. I'm joined now by retired NYPD Detective David Sarney. David, thank you so much for joining me. Obviously, you're from New York. What's your reaction to Dan Halloran's arrest in Florida?
It's not unexpected for a person who's already been locked up and did time federally. What is concerning is the fact that it's now child porn. So that's always a thing that you look at. Is this is obviously, and we see pedophiles in the past we've arrested. It doesn't just start immediately with the arrest. There's been things before that. So there's going to be more of a deep dive into his online profile and his access. And this is just the start of the investigation that's going to continue on with this arrest.
Yeah, and even the start, it kind of paints a really disturbing picture. More than 1,300 child sexual abuse videos were found on his phone. And if that's not disturbing enough, 35 of those videos were of prepubescent girls, What does that tell you, and what does that also tell you about how long he may have allegedly been doing this?
Well, that's the issue. The benefit was when CPB looked at his phone, because they can do that, which is a benefit because they're authorized to do that, especially when it comes to international travel. He was coming back in from Cuba to Miami, and they did a look on his phone, and CBP is authorized to do that. As they look on the phone, they see all these things on his phone. They look and seeing a date of 2024 is when he was downloading these photos. But I'll guarantee you whatever access or any photos he has or any videos will be at his residence. So there's going to be search warrants conducted there. And again, that deep dive into his online history and his online profile and access that he's had. This is going to be probably a longer term investigation because you want to look to see who he's been in contact with, because pedophiles tend to group up. They tend to share and send these photos. So internationally, this is a benefit for law enforcement because now you're going to look at it on the national level. Maybe we can actually start, gathering a net and grabbing these people who are getting these videos, and not only that, maybe producing these photos, because this is just a heinous crime that it doesn't end until we eliminate the threats of these individuals, these pedophiles.
Yeah, because it doesn't seem like this is a type of case where this is just like a one-off instance. It doesn't seem like he just did this alone. Obviously, to your point, he maybe had other people kind of playing parts into this. Now, how do you know, we were talking about authorities finding the phone. How do you think authorities knew to look at his phone? Now, they are able to search through it without a probable cause or without a warrant or anything like that. He was traveling from Cuba, heading to Miami, where he had that stop before heading back here to New York. Do you think it was just the right chance moment, or do you think all along federal authorities knew that they had to keep an eye on him?
Well, that's something that's unusual, but given the fact he's a convicted felon, that might have added something to it. But, you know, this is something that Customs and Borders Protection can do when people going international flights coming back into the U.S. And given the fact it is Cuba, we've had issues with Cuba travel. So this might have been an added nuance to the opening of his phone, to checking on his phone. And once they saw there's issues with the phone, you know, it moved on from the initial investigator, the initial officer, and then it cascaded and moved downward. And then they started seeing this dark web of pedophilia that he's been warehousing on his phone.
In your opinion, how do we go from corruption and bribery to this?
Well, this is the thing about criminality. It's extensive. There are people who are bad, and he was a convicted felon, federal. This is a federal crime that he was involved in, and pedophilia is something that, when it's put out in the open, it's not just a one-time thing. The benefit is he's been caught. Now, what you do is now you work on someone who's done this, and the heinous crime this is. You know, you are entitled to prove guilty in the court of law, but he did admit knowingly possessing the items there. There's a lot of damning evidence to look to convict him federally. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. So, you know, when you see these type of cases, especially when it comes to child abuse, child porn videos, and pedophilia, this is where the ensnarement of all of the resources that the federal and local and state agencies do is to hone in on these people, because it's not just one person. He got these videos and these photos from other people that share it. So it's going to be it's going to continue onward, and I don't doubt that the agencies involved will get as many people as they can who are involved in this, not just this person. I don't want to name this one, but this person who has been arrested.
Yeah, and it does feel like it's the tip of the iceberg as well, too. In terms of charging him, it was a lot of videos, right? But only 2 federal child pornography charges. Why do you think it wasn't more?
Well, what you can do is sometimes the way the federal courts, the way prosecutors are, they have at least 2. If they want to extend them further, they can. So they're going to work on the 2 and see where they can get. You know, they may want to look for some cooperation in a sense. You're not going to see him lose and take away prison time, but there could be extensive time. If he doesn't cooperate, they can then add additional charges later on. I've seen that happen in state cases where we have a person arrested for some, but if they don't cop to the ones we have, they'll extend those cases to further all the cases they want. So he almost has 1,400 videos. So you're looking at 2 federal charges, and if they need be, they'll just extend the charges further.
And we were talking about this a little bit offline, that, you know, the CBP officer also found texts indicating that Dan Halloran purchased this type of content from Telegram. And we see Telegram come up a lot in different cases that we cover, mainly suspects using it to try to get away with this type of activity. But what are your thoughts overall on the use of the app specifically to engage in this type of nefarious criminal behavior, but also what are your thoughts on just him using and messaging someone to buy this type of content on the app?
You see a lot of people using these scripted end-to-end apps such as Signal, WhatsApp, and Telegram's being one of them. It seems to be Telegram is that darker side of it, where, you know, if you might be getting things on social media to, you know, someone wants to be your friend, here's my Telegram number. So there's other things going on with Telegram. I mean, there's a benefit to it to protect and the privacy of individuals, but there are people using it for nefarious purposes, such as selling child porn. So this is one of the things that tech is good. That when tech is good, it's good. But people use technology sometimes for the worst of the worst, and this being one of them, you know, distributing child porn.
And do you think that it's possible, had investigators not caught up to him when he was flying in from Cuba, that maybe that's where this was heading, for him to distribute it to more people?
Yeah, the benefit of this is what CBP did, and they did their job as part of anything that they do when people come back into the states. But if the CBP officer did not look into his phone, we wouldn't know how far it would have gone. This is where this wasn't he was being investigated for it. He was found to have it at that moment. So he's probably that's why it's not going to be just what's on his phone. He's probably going to have items on his other devices, his laptop, desktop, whatever computer sources he has. So this is just something that is a happenstance because, this is what federal agencies do when you're coming into another country. You're susceptible to being checked, in a sense, searched, and they were allowed to search the phone. It's very rare they do it, but in this case, given the fact that they're coming from a country that we've had issues with as far as travel is concerned and travel concerns, that might have been the reason why they did look at the phone.
Yeah, and you can't even imagine what would have happened had they not looked at the phone. He's back here in New York and just where this all could have gone from here. When you've investigated these types of cases during your time with the NYPD, when you talk to suspects who are accused of the exact same thing, do they think in their mind that somehow this is better, that they possess these types of images, these types of videos, as opposed to actually acting on these types of crimes? Do they feel like there's a difference? Because to me, there's not. But, to the suspects themselves, did they feel like, I didn't act on this. What am I? I'm not really a criminal. What did they say to you when you investigated these types of cases?
Well, these type of cases, when we've dealt with people who are into children, they don't see anything truly wrong with it. There's been societies which promote it. There's been NAMBLA was one of them and has been one of them where they don't see a harm in it. But the reality is it's illegal, it's immoral. And you can't push away the fact that of what you're doing is something, in fact, criminal. And I don't see anyone not saying this is an evil act. And because you're just a visionary of it, I'm just watching it, doesn't mean necessarily that you're not privy to it. Because if you're purchasing it, if you're involved in it, you are putting yourself and you're promoting it. Because that's why you saw there were different types of programs so they could have gotten. He got the VIP plan. He gotten this type of plan. So this is something that they're looking to do, and you can't excuse it. They may excuse it because of prior issues where they've had in the past with pornography. But child porn is child porn, and this is something that we have to you have to nip in the bud. And the only way to do it is these individuals need to be incarcerated, and the people who promote this and distribute this porn need to be also incarcerated. I have not seen, unfortunately, anyone truly reformed from this type of from pedophilia. They only sometimes avoid it because they're going to get caught, not because because they can't. There's an innate urge in these individuals to continue this problem and this disease, this evil. And it usually starts as a child, or you've been exposed to it, and it continues on. So this is something that, I don't see any end to it unless we get them off the streets and end this and really put these people out of business.
Yeah, and I agree with you there. David Sarney, I want to thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. What do you think will happen next in the case?
Well, right now he's being held. He's got his next court date. I guarantee you his attorneys are trying to find ways in which to mitigate the situation, and the feds are going to build up their case. They're going to go, I said, they're going to be going to search warrants at his house and any documentation, any place he's been, his place of business. He was a dive instructor, so I guarantee you, does he have things at his office there? What does he have? They're going to build their case, and then they're going to maybe work on some sort of cooperation where you're not denying him prison time, but somewhere along the line trying to get more information from him. And that's what he's probably going to utilize, is I have more info. I'll get that what's called queen for a day in a sense. But, the reality is he's still possessing and knowingly possessing almost 1,400 videos and photos and things of child porn.
And admitted to that as well, too, according to federal investigators. David Sarney, again, thank you so much for your time and your insight into this case. We'll see how this all continues to develop. Love to have you back on to talk more about this once we learn some more. But again, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, and stay safe.
Again, Dan Halloran hasn't entered a plea yet. His arraignment is set for April 14th. Reporting for Law&Crime, I'm Elizabeth Millner.